you just arrived, you'll have seen we've exhibitors on both sides of the room here. And every 45 minutes or so, we have some fantastic speakers to give you more of an insight into some possible careers for you. So, next up is a person who I am delighted to say I have seen her speak on this subject previously, and it is fascinating. And in many ways, it will seem familiar, and in other ways, it will be a total surprise to you. So, if you are interested in working in the Irish Prison Service or finding out about some possible careers for you, we have Sylvia C. Flynn here today. She is here with the Irish Prison Service. She's doing a Careers Expo briefing now, and I know they have a stand down below. They're exhibiting as well, so you can chat to them. But I am very happy to welcome her to the stage. Come on and give her a lovely round of applause, if you will, please, because she's absolutely fascinating. And we'll bombard you with questions afterwards.
No, this one's fine. Good afternoon, everybody. Delighted to be here. Just welcome you all to the brief there for the Irish Prison Service. Again, just to remind you, we do have a stand here as well, so you're more than welcome to join us at the stand. Any questions you have afterwards, and we can answer them there for you. My name is Sylvia Flynn, as Ruth has said, and I'm working with the Prison Service with almost 16 years. I'm just going to give you a breakdown, basically, of what the Prison Service recruitment, what we're looking for in the recruitment campaign here. And if you have any questions about the job itself, we'll go through it with you. The content I'm going to go through today about the Irish Prison Service is the role of the prison officer, a typical day as a prison officer, and the training that's involved. Any questions and answers then at the end, we'll try and answer them here, or as I said, we'll do it down at the stand. What do we do? What does the Prison Service do? Our mission is basically to provide safe and secure dignity and care and rehabilitation to prisoners for safer communities. Our vision is a safer community through excellence in a prison service built on the respect of human dignity. For those of you who don't know many of the prisons estate, the whole prison service is known as the Prison Service Estate. There's 12 prisons there, and you can see them there. We have Lockenhaus, which is an open centre, and Shelton Abbey. The open centres themselves are where prisoners that are doing even long-term go. They're not like the main prisons where there are certain times for lockdown. They're open facilities where families can go and spend an afternoon with them. Children can go. They have huge workshops. They have, like in the likes of Shelton Abbey, they have gorgeous gardens, and the prisoners work on these gardens. They work on the farm, so they are putting back into society there. With selling the eggs to the locals. They have a coffee shop in Lockenhaus that the public come into and sit down and frequent also. If any of you ever wondering about the challenges of a role of a prison officer, what do you think you would face in the role itself? There's different stress levels involved in this role. You would have your own personal stress. Everybody has personal stress. We all bring it to work every day with us. We leave our house, we have our own personal stress. Being searched every day, like in the airport, claustrophobic environment. Everybody is searched going in and out of the prison service. 12-hour shifts, unsociable hours, every second weekend, festive occasions. So you do work. The prison service doesn't close on Christmas and let everybody go home, unfortunately. So we have to have staff in there to work. So you do end up working at Christmas, birthdays, Easters, lots of other occasions. So, it's hard to get your head around that sometimes. Social media, the surgical removal of the mobile phone from you, that's what I like to call it, because you don't have your mobile phone with you in the prison. You're not allowed to have your mobile phone. And you start getting these phantom vibrations that your phone has gone off in your pocket and it's not really there. But it's a bit of a luxury then when you're on your break, you go out and you check your phone. Everybody runs for their phones. There's a lack of appreciation for the role of a prison officer. The anti-heroic, the Hollywood stereotypes. I'm sure you've all seen The Shawshank Redemption or The Longest Yard, Adam Sandler, where prison officers are the bad guys. It's not like that at all, I'm afraid. We're not like that. That's your social isolation. Then there's a requirement to contain your own emotions, such as shock, fear, anger, sadness. There is people out there, there is people that you will have to deal with that you mightn't feel comfortable dealing with, but that is your job. That is your role as a prison officer. That is your professionalism, and you're there to help those people to rehabilitate and to make some sort of a better for them. The threat of assault. Everybody thinks of the threat of assault first. The threat of assault for themselves or for someone else. Dealing with challenging people, suffering from addictions, mental health and behavioural issues. Majority of our prisoners in the prison system suffer from all of these. Protecting and caring for people convicted of morally offensive crimes. You will have your own opinions on these, but unfortunately you leave them at the door. This is your job, this is your role, this is where you must be. You need compassion. The uncertainty over daily tasks, the ever-evolving role in the environment. Then you have the other stressors. A colleague is assaulted. Again, you're assaulted. A death in custody. Somebody dies in custody. Like one of my colleagues, when he started in the service, he finished his training. He was told on the Friday, you're reporting to Mountjoy Prison tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. He arrived in Mountjoy Prison at 8 o'clock. At 1 o'clock, he found somebody hanging in a cell. That was his first day as a prison officer. You can be very unlucky in that, and then you may not, have 30 years, you may not see anything, but it does happen. There is deaths in custody. You could be under investigation. If you're not doing your job correctly, you could be under investigation. A prisoner may have made an allegation against you. It may be a false allegation, but you're still under investigation. That brings stress on as well. A disturbance. We do have disturbances. Thankfully, they're very rare. We have fantastic equipment in the prison service, and luckily we don't ever have to use it, which is great, because disturbances are rare in the service, because the facilities have improved. There's more workshops, there's more rehabilitation going on, there's more things for people to do because there's no boredom. All of these together then will create it. I love this picture here, because if you look at the statistics there, it was in America. Mental hospitals closed down and the prison numbers risen up. And that is the harsh reality of it. If there is no room in mental facilities here in Ireland, they do end up in prison. And a lot of our prisoners do have some sort of a mental issue, some sort of a mental, physical, any sort of issues, and they end up in prison. We're not trained to deal with prisoners like that, but we end up having to look after them, and we do our best when we have them. We do a lot of work with, like, the Central Mental Hospital and that, and they come in and we have certain areas, high dependency units, low dependency units, so we try and help facilitate them as much as possible. Our single greatest strength is our ability to communicate, engage, and demonstrate humanity. It's a people-centric organisation. You have to be resilient. Your own well-being and your own mental health is important also. And the need for authentic, supportive interactions. I can't stress this enough, that line there, that every contact counts. Every contact that we have with a prisoner should be and must be a positive contact. It's the only way you're going to have some sort of positivity in your job. We have a chap that comes in and speaks to our recruits. He's an ex-prisoner, and he comes down to the college and talks to the recruits that were here with us. He was addicted to drugs, he was down and out, he was stealing from his family, he was stealing from his friends, he was assaulting people. He's now doing a master's degree because one officer took an interest in him and pointed him in the right direction. And I mean, if you can do that, if you can make it count for one person, you've achieved something in your job. Their societal values. I know this probably isn't as relevant as it used to be anymore, because we have a lot of multicultural and a lot of people from different backgrounds, different countries coming in, but we still have it. What do people say about the Irish? They're engaging, they're helpful, humorous, crack, compassionate, kind and warm. But that's not just for us. And that just comes from a brochure about Ireland itself. So we do carry those traits everywhere, in every job, not just in the prison service. We carry them right across the board, in the hospitals, in the schools, in the churches. We're resilient, we're dynamic, multicultural. The Ips Value Proposition is, by making every contact with our prisoners count, you make a positive difference to their lives and their communities. You operate as part of a team with the prison environment across the organisation and with other organisations and agencies. We will provide you with incremental wage, opportunities for additional hours, promotion, additional allowance, specialised work. You have the opportunity to work in various posts and diverse roles, to work with like-minded people, managing others, train persons and develop staff. We have so many roles in the prison service. If you have any sort of a trade, if you have a gym qualification, if you're a carpenter, if you're a nurse, if you're a teacher, through the Department of Education, teachers can sign up because we have schools. We're a community behind a 30-foot wall. So we have schools, we have churches, we have shops, we have workshops. So a lot of our officers would join. They have a trade, or carpentry or block shops. We have those in the prison as well. Gym officers. Again, that's another avenue. Nurses, we have nurses. We also have carers for prisoners. There's a lot of older prisoners in the prison system as well that need carers 24/7 with them as well. So there's a multitude of opportunities there. These are just some pictures here just to show that you have just a typical cell here on the left. You have a prisoner working in one of the workshops. That's just down to one of the divisions. It would have been an older picture of Mountjoy there, just recognising the floor. These are some of the gardens here in the Midlands prison. As you can see, it's not like the American system. We walk on the landings with the prisoners. We stand on the landing with the prisoners. We're not standing outside with guns or tasers or behind screens. We're actually on the landings communicating with people, and that's the best way to be doing it. The diverse and ever-evolving role of a prison officer. Again, you've workshops there. That's one of our control rooms. So when you go into the prison, you have anything from about 500 cameras on you. It's like Big Brother is watching. But that's for your protection as well as everybody else's protection. And you just get used to it being there. But it is there for a reason. You would have multidisciplinary meetings here. So you'd have agencies from the nursing staff. You would have agencies from the Central Mental Hospital. You would have probation. You would have, I think, psychology. All come together when they're dealing with certain prisoners, doing reports and so on for them. The role of the prison officer itself, you carry out your security duties for safe and secure custody. You're dealing with issues such as bullying, assaults, substance misuse, and self-harm. Having an awareness of prisoners' needs and vulnerabilities and taking action. Encouraging prisoners to deal with personal challenges through offending behaviour programs. We have a multitude of behaviour programs there because it's all challenging for them. Incentivize Regimes. That's an Incentivize Regimes is a program within the prisons. When they come into the prison, they start off on standard, it's called. If they misbehave or don't comply with the prison rules, they go down to what's called a basic standard. And if they do comply and go to school and engage with the services, they go up to an enhanced standard. It's a sort of a rewarding system. If they're on enhanced, they get extra phone calls, extra visits, extra shop orders. So you need to be able to deal with that and try your best to actually calm them down, reassure them that they're safe. It's not like what you see on TV. This is not what's going to happen to you. You're safe. When they come in, they're put into what we call a committal cell. So it's a single cell, and they stay there until they're seen by a governor and a medic the following day. The reason we do this is we need to determine, have they any medical conditions first, and do they need appropriate treatment, or do they need hospital treatment? The other reason for it is for protection reasons. Are they fighting with anyone that's already in prison? Because a lot of the time, anything that's happening on the outside can overflow into the prison itself. The gangland wars, hits, it all, you'd witness it all when you're in the prison. So you need to make sure that you're doing what's right for them, protecting them as well. We have a duty of care to protect people. That is our job. The courts lock people up. We're not there to punish people. The courts lock them up. That's their punishment. Their freedom is taken away. And we are there to take care of them. Fostering appropriate relationships is maintaining professional relationships, but also being able to be there if they need to talk to you. And I find as well there's always a percentage of female officers in a male prison and male officers in a female prison, because the male prisoners seem to go to the females because it's kind of is it a mammy figure or something, but they find us easier to talk to. And in the female prisoner, they go to the males because they seem to have a calming effect on the women. It's not in my house now, it's a complete opposite at home, but it seems to work in the prison. Ensuring standards of hygiene, cleanliness are maintained. We do have huge standards on infection control in the prison, and it's increasing constantly, which is great, because a cell is their place of home, so they must keep it clean. They must keep it tidy for their own safety, because they'll only get sick if it's not hygienic. So we have, it's the same as you see in restaurants, certain mops for certain floors, certain buckets, certain cloths. It's the exact same, which is great. Years ago, I remember in Mountjoy, if you walked down the landing and the lights went off at nights, you could hear the cockroaches, and then you'd be standing on them halfway down the floor, or they'd be on your boot when you're doing a check. Thankfully, those days are gone, and it smells better, and it's much, much cleaner, so you don't have to worry about that. I used to be kind of kicking the boots when I'd stop at a door. I was afraid of my life of the cockroaches. Recording and reporting is very important for your benefit and a prisoner. And I'll harp on about this a little bit. If we have a death in custody, we need to we go back 72 hours, and anyone that's been in contact with a prisoner in 72 hours is spoken to. say it's someone in the middle landing, the prisoners above them, the prisoners below them, prisoners left and right of them are interviewed. Did they notice any different? The teachers are interviewed, the staff are interviewed. Whether you just walked past them on the landing and said, hiya, you're interviewed. Because that's all what recording and reporting is about. Because you have to have all your information correct, because you will be called to a coroner's court. There will be investigations, so you need to make sure everything is done. It's the same in most jobs. You need to make sure, and it's the same for staff with admin. When the administration staff, when they come into custody, they have to make sure the warrant is put on correct, that they're not putting too much time on it, they're not putting not enough time on it, all counts are put on it. Their money, when they come into prison, the money is taken off them, they don't carry cash, so that has to be added to the system, so everything is recorded. Property, so if you have jewellery and you come into prison, it's taken off you, it's put into a safe locker, that's recorded, so that when you leave the prison, that leaves with you. I enjoy working as a prison officer. As I said, I've worked there almost 16 years, but the other side of it is not for everyone. We often have, I work in the college now at the moment where we have recruits, and it's very difficult if you come across someone and you know that it's not for them, and you hope they can make that decision themselves, and very often they do. We had one guy who had done his full 12 weeks of training, had passed everything, and on the very last day before his graduation decided it wasn't for him, I was completely shocked by this, but he made that decision, and it's a very, very brave decision, because from the moment you sign up for the role with public jobs, it takes maybe 3 to 6 months, even longer, to go through the process. Then you have interviews, you're filling out forms, and then to do all that, to do the training of 12 weeks, and then to realize it's not for you. It's a harsh reality, but they made that decision, and it was a very good decision, because you don't want to be stuck in a job for 30 years being bitter. You really don't, because it'll tear you up inside. You need to enjoy your job, any job, not just this job. You need to enjoy where you work. As I said, you'll have challenges, you'll have emotional and stressful situations, you'll deal with problems and conflict, society's perceptions, hidden work patterns. Typical day of a class officer. The typical day of a class officer, I'll get this right in a minute. The typical day of a class officer is you're on the landing, you draw your keys in the morning, you're in charge of A1, you go down. The first thing you do is you check that, they tell you have 36 prisoners, the first thing you do is you go down, you check if you have 36 prisoners, and that they're all alive and well. And that is your main job of that day. The first thing is you check that. You will check people and numbers maybe 4 times a day, and you get used to counting. You'll find that you're walking down the street, you're counting unknown to yourself. You're locking doors the whole time behind you. It can be a good thing as well. I locked my husband inside the ensuite at home a few times, locking doors behind me, and he wasn't too happy. But as I say, you never get sacked for a locked door. So you're constantly locking doors, you're constantly checking that the door is locked behind you. So as the class officer then, you make sure everybody gets up for breakfast. But these are really important jobs, because if you're the class officer on the landing and you know Joe Bloggs is always up for his breakfast every morning, certain time, waiting at the door, and one morning you open the door, he's not. He's still slumped in the bed, and you're like, are you okay? Are you getting up for breakfast? But you know he normally is. These are little indicators something is wrong, and you need to be aware of them. So you kind of do the rest of your work, you come back and say, are you okay? Are you getting up for breakfast? Is there anything wrong? It's asking the question, can I do anything? And just something as simple as that can stop somebody, as I said, from either harming themselves or harming somebody else. The training involved, there's some pictures here of some of the recruits doing their control and restraint training, some shield work. We do control and restraint training. Control and restraint training is a form of joint manipulation, and it's there to protect you and to protect prisoners. It's there so that you can move a prisoner from A to B safely, that you don't get injured, the rest of the staff don't get injured, and the prisoner does not get injured. Because you don't want to be writing 6 months of paperwork for somebody getting injured if you're not doing your job correctly. You do a higher cert of custodial care, and it's done with WIT, Waterford Institute of Technology. So basically what you do is you'll do your 6 weeks of training down in Portlaoise. Accommodation and meals are paid for. Then you do 6 weeks in Dublin. It's not paid for then, but you will be doing, from the day you start in Portlaoise, is your 2-year higher cert in custodial care. When you finish your higher cert in custodial care, you become a prison officer. But before that, you will do 10 days in college, and you're paid to attend days in college. The prison service pay you to attend your college days. If you're due off, you're recalled in and you get paid. If you're due on, you're sent to college for the day. So it's great opportunities there, and you can branch out of that HCCC into other avenues. There's 4 phases. Phase 1, as I said, 6 and 6 weeks. half in the college in Portlaoise, half in Dublin. Phase 2 is the second, it's module 2 in 9 months, and phase 3 is a Dublin location. Now, that may change because if any of you remember, over 30 years ago was our last major recruitment, so most people are due to retire from that at this moment. They can retire or they have to reach their 60 because you have to be over 18 to apply, but you have to retire at 60. There's no discrimination on age in between that, but you just have to retire at 60. So anyone that's due to retire now, we had lots of transfer lists for years where if you joined 10 years ago, you would have been waiting 10, 12 years to get to the likes of Cork, Limerick, Castlereagh. But we had a guy now recently, he's only 18 months in, and he's already got his transfer to Cork because the transfer lists are almost depleted. So if you're from the Cork, Limerick, Castlereagh regions, now is your time to be applying for the job because the longer you leave it, the list will start to build up again, and we'll be back again where everybody will be once again automatically sent to Dublin. Semester 1 is 12 weeks in the Irish Prison Service Training College. There's 3 modules: Foundation of Practice, Learning to Learn, and Crisis and Conflict Management. Semester 2 is 12 weeks, 6 to 7 workshops in central Dublin venue. Their modules are Custodial Care, Equality and Diversity, and Work Reflective Practice Projects. Semester 3 is 12 weeks again in central Dublin venue, Contemporary Healthcare, Ethical Dimensions to Custodial Care, and an Introduction to Social Psychology. Semester 4, again in a central Dublin venue again, 3 modules: Human Rights, Criminal Justice, Criminology, Penology, Workplace Reflective Practice. I have some of the employment conditions and benefits here. You're required to work flexible shifts. So we'll go through that. I have another slide on that in a second. Rosters are prepared and available to staff well in advance. So you'd actually know for the next 2 or 3 years what your shifts are going to be. You can work it out. It's that advanced and that easy to work out. You'll actually know what you're doing when you're working Christmases, when you're not working Christmases. You can plan your holidays around it. So on the roster, you're required to attendance every second weekend, night duty, some public holidays, and other festive seasons. Prison officers are also required to work additional hours. That's our overtime, and there's a maximum of 360 hours per annum, which will attract additional payments. You generally work from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on a roster on a fortnight cycle. Just highlighted in red there, in some prisons, if there's no spaces on the rosters, we would have an 8 to 5 assignment, but that's only temporary. If it's a Dublin-based competition, you could be based up there for 5 years, but we've gone through that because the transfer lists are almost depleted, it will be shorter in Dublin. This is just to give you an idea of it here. I'm just going to take this out for a second if I can. Just makes it easier. So week 1 there, you see the RD is rest day. So you'd have a Saturday and Sunday rest day. Monday and Tuesday you work 8 to 8. Wednesday, Thursday you're off, and back in Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So the following week then, you would be on Monday, Tuesday, off Wednesday, Thursday, off Monday, Tuesday, in Wednesday, Thursday, and off Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's a good week to take leave because you only have to take 2 days off out of 5. So it's a good day for it. Your annual leave, all recruit prison officers are entitled to 20 days per year. These arrangements currently apply in the prison service in respect of unearned rest days. Free days in lieu of public holidays will also apply. To ensure sufficient staffing is available, annual leave is granted in a structured and planned manner, and you get a total of 216 hours per annum. There is different annual leave entitlements, apply on appointed to a prison officer grade. No routine leave is granted during 12 weeks of training. So if you do apply for the job and you decide you get called to do a group, say it's group 1 of 2020 that they say you want to join, but you have a wedding planned or you have a holiday planned, you can put that back to the next group if you wish. But just bearing in mind, if you had joined in that group, you would be given what we call a pay number, and that determines your seniority in the prison. So that also has a knock-on effect. So you would be more junior if you come for a later group as well. There is a probation period. The probation is an extension of the selection process. It's for 12 months. You have no right of appeal in the first 6 weeks, and a recommendation for probation at 9 months, and you have a right of appeal. There's also other information, and you have a 3-month, 6-month, and 9-month probation review. These are the competencies that we look for. So when you're filling out your application forms and they're asking you all the questions, we have values and competencies. And this is how we say you base your answers on them for the role of the prison officer. Directing others, supporting others, conscientiousness, resilience, adaptability, and information handling. The values we look for in people are teamwork, integrity, potential, safety, and support. The emphasis is to work with prisoners rather than working in a prison. Anyone who you know who says they work in a prison, it's always think of you work in prison, there's locks, there's keys, there's gates, but you actually don't. You work with people, you work with prisoners, and that's what people need to get their head around, is you're working with people. So what happens next is there's different locations, different applicants at different stages. That's just an idea of the groups that we have for next year. So we have a new group starting. We have a group just in at the moment, and we have a group starting in December. We have another group starting in January. We have another group in March, April and June. And it just gives you the dates there are when they start in Portlaoise, when they finish in Portlaoise, when they start in the Dublin Training Centre, and when they finish. As you said earlier on, the role of the prison officer is not for everyone. It's very challenging, it's rewarding, and it's a varied career. And it is a career. It can be a job that you come in and you clock in and you have your cup of tea and you do what you're supposed to do and clock back out. Or you can actually make a career of it. You can upskill yourself. You can do different things. There's so many different roles that you can go for and basically climb the ladder, as they say, and get all the way to the top. Become the Minister of Justice then at the end of it. It'd be great. Has anyone any questions? Or are you all very quiet?
I think you've given us just all the information that we need. I did love how you kept saying it's not for everybody.
No, it isn't, and people need to get that into their heads. Like, as I said before, a prison is a community. Right? There's a 30-foot wall. You all see guards on the streets. You all see firemen. You see the paramedics. You know the job. You know their roles. You don't know the role of a prison officer because there's a 30-foot wall around you. It is a community. There is shops. There is schools. There is workshops. There is dentists. There's doctors, there's psychologists, the neighbourhoods, which are the A, B, C, and D, they don't always get on. It's like being where you live. You know, it is a community. It's a different type of community, just enclosed in a wall. And that's what you need to kind of get your head around. It isn't for everyone, but some people surprise themselves. And some people have come into this role from different backgrounds, from different jobs, and went, oh, I don't think this is for me. And we'd say, just give it a week, see how you get on. And by the end of the 12 weeks, they're just beaming with confidence, you know, because it's not about how big you are. I take off my shoes now, I'm about 5'1", 5'2". So it's not about how big you are, how strong you are. It's about using your head, using your mouth to communicate with people. Our job is about de-escalation. That is 99% of my job, is talking to people, communicating with people, calming people, talking to them. It's not about sending in a team of people to take somebody out and drag them out of a cell. It's all about talking.
And you mentioned as well the person who had done the 12-week training course, and just before he was about to graduate, he decided that was it. If somebody does get to that stage, like, are there any repercussions? Do they suddenly owe you a debt of money or a debt of gratitude or a debt of some kind?
No, they don't. The only thing we say to them is they have to come back in and they have to fill out a letter of resignation. That's about it, and hand back the uniform. We have to take that back. They can't keep that for the fancy dress.
I was going to say, you can't keep that for the fancy dress. No. I was also very glad to hear you don't shut up shop for bank holidays and Christmas and Easter and things like that.
I know, people forget about that because everyone goes, oh, you're working at Christmas. And going, yeah, we don't close the prison at Christmas.
But good as well that you would know 3 years in advance. Like, there's people I know that wouldn't know 2 weeks out what their work schedule is.
It is, and I must say, it's kind of daunting when you come into the prison first and at Christmas they're asking you, right, what leave do you want next spring? And in January, what leave do you want in the summer? And you're going, I haven't a clue.
Yeah.
But it's so well planned. And it is based on seniority. Everything is based on your pay number, your seniority. But it's so well planned that you can plan your lives. You can plan your holidays, your babysitters. Because it is, like, I have children, and people say to me, how do you manage juggling the job with children? You do. You can juggle the job. And it is, there's great camaraderie. There's great friendships in this job. You know, we might kill each other sometimes. There's my colleague there, Miss Cross, and like, you might have arguments sometimes, but at the end of the day, she'll always have my back. She's always there for my support emotionally. You know, she's great. You know, so you'll always have people like that you work with.
You're absolutely selling it well. So if people are interested in having more of a discussion, you're down, are you the left side or the right? You're one of the sides.
We're on the right side or the left on of it.
So people can go and chat to you there and maybe talk about turning up to do
Yeah,
some training. Obviously,
they-
don't just turn up. You need to, set things up in
Yeah,
place.
come on down to the stand. Myself, Janine and Paddy are there at the stand, and I think one of our governors is here with us, Dave, as well. So we're free to
Brilliant.
answer any of your questions. And if you want more information, go into www.irishprisons.ie. Have a look there for eligibility or any other questions you have. And register at publicjobs.ie if you're interested in the job, and set up an alert, because that is where we actually do our recruitment from, is Public Jobs. And if you set up an alert there, register with them and apply for the job at Public Jobs.
Fantastic. I know it's my second time to hear you speaking, but I found it as interesting the second time. So thank you so much. Can we give her a lovely warm round of applause?
Thank you very much.